Hello and welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Well, today, my friends, I'm doing a little bit of painting for therapy. I have had a rough March, but you know what? Painting always relaxes me. We're going to do a little spring painting today, some robin's eggs in a nest. If you'd like to join me, let's begin. This is what I'll be using for today's painting. I've got some Strathmore watercolor cold press paper. It's 9 by 12 inches at 140 pounds. And it's the 300 series in case anybody wants to know that. I've basically taped down my canvas landscape, and I'm going to be using my pan paints today. I have the brand Pretty Excellent, and I'm probably going to stick to the browns mostly, maybe yellow and white, and blues for the robin's eggs. I've got my little watercolor pencil here that I'm going to use just to sketch out where I want to put my eggs. I've got some water, some paper towel, and I've got my round brushes. I've got a number 4 round, number 2 round. This is a 3/0 round. It's a tiny little round brush, and I've got my number 4 liner brush. I'm not sure that I'm going to use all of them, but I will link in the description below, I will list in the description below what I end up using. And of course, I have my Bob Ross playing cards. Let's pull out some Bob Ross wisdom before we do a painting today. And I hope the lighting's okay. I decided not to put my big bright lights on because there's a lot of light outside. All right, here we go. What does Bob Ross want us to know today? We just show you how, but you make the decisions. When you have this much power, you have to make big decisions. It's true. We are creating a painting. We are creating our own little world here. We have a lot of power. We have a lot of choices. All of the choices are within our power. So let's make some big decisions. Thank you, Bob Ross. I just love his wisdom. He's so good. All right, why don't we start? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of draw out my eggs. Not there, maybe, because I kind of want, you know what, I'm going to grab my brown watercolor pencil, and I'm just going to kind of do a circle very lightly. You probably can't see it, it's just for me, just where my nest is kind of going to be, just so I know where to put the eggs. Now, you don't have to use watercolor pencils. I just like them because then you can, you know, put water on them and they will blend well. You could use a regular pencil if you like, but I'm going to start sketching out. I'm just going to do 3 eggs today. One here. You might not even be able to see my sketch. One here. They're going to be on the side of the nest. And one here. There we go. So that's all I'm doing for the sketching. Now I'm going to start with my very small round brush, the smallest one that I have. It's a 3/0. And I'm just going to put some water inside the eggs because I'm going to do wet in wet technique for the eggs. Because I want that paint to stay inside the egg that I drew. I don't want it to go outside. If it does, I guess it's no big deal. I could fix it, but I'm going to use what's called turkey blue. I'll show you what it looks like. It's kind of the color of a robin egg. The last place I lived, I had a lilac tree right outside my studio window. And there was a robin's nest there. There were 3 eggs. If I can find the photo, I'll show it to you. But I'm kind of doing this from, I don't know, from memory, from just doing a study. You know, I just want to learn how to do things without always having a reference photo. But I'll show you the photo if I can find it. I'm just doing the same thing in this egg here. Just filling the egg with water for a little wet in wet technique. And I'm doing a very, very light application of that turkey blue. I wonder why they call it turkey blue. All right. You know, in hindsight, I could have put water. Like, I didn't have to do one egg at a time because they're basically kind of blending into each other right now. But I'll get to the detail after I do the nest. I just wanted to establish where I'm putting the eggs first. So a little more of that turkey blue. Actually, that's quite a lot of it. I might have to water that down because I don't want it to be too dark. I want to do some layers. Pull some of that off. I just have a wet, clean brush. Actually, I might take my larger number 4. I'm wetting it, dabbing it, and pulling some of that off. Yeah, that's easier with the larger brush. Some off here too, I think. Because I can put in darker details later, but for now I just want it to be a nice light application, a nice light layer. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to show you my palette here. We have all of these brown colors here. Well, one is yellow ochre. We've got yellow ochre. We've got yellow sienna. We've got regular sienna, burnt sienna, Van Dyke brown, and I can't read my own writing here, burned brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the lightest color, the yellow ochre, and I'm going to go through all of these shades of yellow and brown, and I'm just going to make the nest that way. And I'll tell you as I'm going which ones I'm starting with and where I'm at. And I'm using my liner brush because I want to have a nice fine point on that, because there will be a lot of layers for this nest. And I'm doing wet on dry, meaning wet paint on a dry canvas. So I'm just kind of loading up my brush with the yellow ochre, and I'm going to make some lines like this. Very random. And I'm going all in the same direction, because if you've ever seen a nest, that's kind of what it looks like. They don't build it all in one shot, you know? They add to it and add to it. Lots of branches and twigs. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Adding to it with my liner brush. I'm doing this all over the nest here. Just going to make sure I don't get any into the egg. The eggs. This is so relaxing. I have had quite a stressful March. My goodness. Very stressful March. Lots of big changes happening in my life. I am a single gal now. And we're just finalizing him moving out, and then I start the new chapter of my single life, which I'm very okay with. But you know, it's an adjustment, and there are sad moments, bittersweet, you know. But yeah, huge changes in my life this month. And my hound dog Jack is sick. I'll tell you about that in a moment. Okay, so now I'm going into what's called a yellow sienna. And these are the colors for my pan paints. If you have an array of yellows and browns, I would say just, you know, go through those. You don't have to use the same exact colors as I'm using. hard to tell the difference here. It doesn't seem to be too different, but that's all right. And I've applied very light strokes, so it's drying pretty quickly. That's why I can go over it like this. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a slight shade change between the yellow ochre and the yellow sienna. So yeah, Bob Ross was right. Big decisions. And my hound dog Jack, he's been having the sniffles and nosebleeds, and I brought him to the vet this week and discovered that he had a tumor in his nasal cavity that's causing the nosebleeds and the sniffles, causing him to always feel like he needs to clear his throat because it's irritated. Unfortunately, it's inoperable and it's growing, and so I'm spending as much time with my little baby Jack as possible. There's no knowing how quickly it'll grow or how slow, or if it stops growing. I just have to spend as much time with him as I can. He's 17 this year. He's getting old. We all get old. It's hard to lose a pet, but I am not going to mourn him until he's gone. We're just having fun now. We go on lots of walks with my other dog, Raven, the Rottweiler, and he's getting lots of treats, lots of hugs and cuddles, and I'm enjoying my time with him. So another big thing going on in my life now. So painting therapy is really helping. Now I'm just into the regular sienna. That is a little darker. This is going to give it some depth. Now you don't have to make them thin. You can make them thick in some areas. I like how this is looking so far. All of these layers are going to really make it look like a nest after we're done here. I love the way these browns look together, the yellows and the browns. They really, really look nice together. It's very pleasing to look at. Okay, so I'm going to the next. Oh, we have a delivery, excuse me. Who needs a doorbell when you have dogs, right? There, you just got a dose of reality TV, Shay Rain. All right, now I'm into the burnt sienna. Actually, that little bit of excitement gave my canvas a chance to dry. Oh, Jack, he got so excited. Someone's at the door, someone's at the door. They're so funny. So now the dogs are up. You might hear little sounds like walking around, little nails on the floor, or sips of water. I thought I could get away with doing this painting before the delivery came, but she's early today. Okay, now I'm going into the next color, which is the Van Dyke brown. It's quite a dark one. I'm always using that same liner brush. Oh yeah, that's very dark. I thought this would be a nice painting for spring. Even though it's really chilly out today as I'm painting this, it's actually snowing here in Canada, in New Brunswick, where I live. All right, now I'm going to go into the darkest brown that I have here, which is called burned brown. It almost looks like black, so I'm going to just see. Yeah, it kind of looks like a black, so I'm going to be careful. Just going to put in a few all over. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to let this dry for a moment because I'm going to give it a wash of yellow ochre. I wanted to show you something neat that I got recently. This is a little desk fan. It just kind of sits on the desk, and I use this to dry my watercolors now. I used to use my hair dryer on the cold setting, but it's not working very well, and I don't feel like buying a new one. And so I decided to buy this little fan because it also comes in handy when I'm doing cooking videos for my other channel, Rain's Kitchen and Garden. When you've got something on the stove and you're trying to film it from above, like this for example, say this is my pot, all the steam comes up and you have a huge fog. So what I do is I kind of hide this from the camera as I'm filming, and I put it on the low setting. You can barely hear it, and it kind of fans all the steam off of my pot. And for a while there I was thinking, well, why am I not using this to dry my watercolors? Because, you know, you want to have cool air to dry your watercolor, right? And it's a USB plug. You can plug it right into your computer, or if you have one of these things that you plug into the wall, it's got USB ports on it. You can use it with that too. And I'm just going to use that, and listen to how quiet it is. I've got it on the low setting now, and I'm just putting it over my watercolor. And that's going to dry it really, really quickly, and it's so nice and quiet. So that's a little tip for you guys. I think it was like, I really don't think I paid more than $30 for this. It's really, really coming in handy. So I just wanted to show you guys that. As I mentioned, I want to give this a wash of yellow ochre. So I brought out my large round brush because I think it'll be better to apply it with a larger brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just taking a little bit of my clean water and I'm putting it into a little dish because I want it to be a very, very light wash. So I'm going in there. I'm going into my pan paint here, and I've loaded up my brush with the yellow ochre. And I'm just going to apply it over the entire nest. Some of that brown is probably not dry yet because it started to blend, but that's really, really okay. I don't mind that at all. I'm using a very light touch, and I really don't want to go over it more than once. And I'm, you know, going in kind of a circular motion, following my strokes here, my paint strokes, just like that. All right, now I'm going to very carefully go around those robin eggs as well. I don't want my canvas to be too wet. And what happened just now is I got a little bit of that yellow ochre into one of the eggs, and I'm just going to pull that off. And it really isn't such a big deal because we still have some work to do on the eggs. So I just wanted to get kind of a base in there, and I'm going to go over, when this is dry, I'm going to go over it again. Same things before with my liner brush, and I'm going to put in more details. So I guess I can put my fan on now and dry this. I'll put a link in the description below of where I got this. I buy mostly everything off Amazon, but I'll give you the exact product that this is. So I'm basically going in and doing the same exact thing I did before. I'm starting with the yellow ochre, and I'm working my way through the range of yellows and browns that I have, and I'm adding the detail for the nest now. We've got the base color there with all those nice browns, and they kind of blended in a little bit. I admit I didn't let my paint dry the first time when I added that wash of yellow ochre, but I think that that's fine because it has all sorts of different colors in it now, you know? This is very, very fun to do. I never attempted to do anything like this before. Lately I've been branching out a lot with my watercolor paintings. I mentioned in previous videos that I was taking some courses on watercolor theory and also some new techniques, and it's actually motivated me to branch out of how I used to paint and try different things. For a while there on this channel, all you saw were charcoal drawings of portraits of celebrities and famous peeps. But now I'm more into the watercolor. Maybe it's seasonal, I don't know. I still like to do portraits now and then. But right now I'm just really loving the watercolors. I find it's very therapeutic because when you do portraits, it's a lot of detail work, whereas with watercolor, or with any painting really, it can be slightly abstract, you know? It doesn't have to be so detailed and perfect, because when you're doing a portrait, usually you're going for realism. All right, I'm in that what's called yellow sienna now. You know what, I might just put my fan on in the background here. I don't know if that's too loud or not. I'll keep it off for now. If I need to pause to let things dry, then I'll do that, because I don't want it to be too noisy. I already have my my heater going in the background because it's chilly, and that makes a little bit of noise. One thing that I used to always only paint with a blue palette. I used to paint Prussian blue, and once in a while a turquoise blue. But I usually just did Prussian blue with different, you know, shading, because I would add water to make it lighter or use it right from the tube to make it darker. But now I never touched brown before. I'm really happy that I'm branching out here. All right, now I'm into sienna. Just sienna. I really like that. It's like a rusty brown, really pretty. I'm taking some branches outside because if you look at any nest, it's not perfectly circular, right? It is kind of spiral looking, but there are branches and twigs and things that kind of fly outside, even like, you know, like that. I'm going to start making some thicker strokes here. We're going to do the detail on the inside after. I just want to get the nest going. All right, now I'm into the burnt sienna, which is darker. Going from light to dark here. And I've been using my liner brush the whole time. I know, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, but just in case I didn't. If you don't have a liner brush, you can use any brush as long as you can get a nice fine tip on it. All right, now I am going into the Van Dyke brown. Very dark brown. Now I'm going into the burned brown color, the darkest brown that I have. And for that, I'm not going to put any around the edges too much. I'm going to stick mostly to the middle of the nest here with that really dark brown. And also, I'm thinking that my light source is coming in from here, so this side is going to be darker. Just at the bottom, really. I'm trying to give it a little bit of a 3D effect, but we'll see if I can actually pull that off. Burned brown. Because the bottom of the nest is probably sitting in a shadow, right? So it should be a little darker. Maybe a little on this side here. As Bob Ross said, I'm making big decisions, big decisions here. Up here. Now, while that's drying, I am going to work a little bit on the eggs. So I'm going to pull out that tiny little round brush, that's the 3/0, and I'm going to go back into my turkey blue, and I'm going to go and just do the outline of the egg again. Of each egg, I should say. I don't really have a steady hand. I've got shaky hand syndrome again. Oh well, probably due to the stress I've been going through. I hope you guys aren't having any stress in your life. I've been trying to do a lot of healing work and staying mindful. And for me, mindful is just being in the moment. It's not necessarily meditating or anything like that. It's just really being in the moment. focusing on what I'm doing now. I'm just fixing a little, got a little blue into the brown there. I don't want it, so I'm pulling that off. Now with this tiny little brush, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some, let's see, some of the yellow sienna. That's that kind of darker yellow, just around the eggs. And I'm going to be very careful because my blue is not quite dry yet. I've got snoring dogs now. The excitement of the delivery is over. They had a little drink of water. I took them out for a pee. And now they're sleeping. Yeah, that blue is still wet here, so I'm gonna try to pull some of that off here. I'll do that one last. So I'm still in that yellow sienna. I'm just covering that little blue area. I'm not going to get too close to the edge. I think all my blue is dry on this side, so I'm okay. Right, I got a little paint outside here. You know why? Because there's a little paint on my hand down here, so I'm just going to take care of that. All right, so I'm going to continue, but now I've got my yellow ochre. So I've got the lighter color, and I'm just going to put some yellow ochre inside what is the bottom of the nest, where the eggs are lying. And I'm actually putting on quite a thick layer here. I have nothing in mind. I'm just like, okay, I think I want to put some there. I may cover that up with some darker brown after. I'm going to see how I feel about that. Big decisions. What are you going to paint in your world today? I love Bob Ross. Okay, so let me grab my liner brush again, and I'm going to do more on the nest with the lightest color that I've used today, which is the yellow ochre. I'm just adding some more. Just around this area here. Now I've got some masking tape here, so that's going to be interesting. It's going to kind of cut it off. I probably should have centered it more, but that's all right. We are not striving for perfection, right? Perfection is boring. Now I'm going to try something a little crazy, my friends. I'm going to go into that lemon yellow that I have and see if that looks okay or not. If it doesn't, I will immediately cover it. But I'm just curious how it would look with a little lemon yellow. Maybe that'll look nice. Gives it a little highlight. I'm not going to go around the entire nest. just around the top, because, you know, like I said, I think I had my light source coming in there. When I'm painting, I always forget about the light source, but that's something I'm trying to train myself to do, is to, you know, figure out, okay, light source is coming from there, that means this side needs to be a little lighter, there needs to be shadows on the bottom. I think that looks nice. And probably some in here too. Because the light is probably hitting this side of the bottom of the nest. Whereas this side is in the shadow because it's sort of, you know, there's a little bit of a wall to it. All right, that's good. Happy with that. Now let's see, I'm going to go into my, one of the darker browns, probably the burnt sienna for now. I don't want to go too dark right now. Same liner brush. I'm just loading it up off camera here. And I'm going to go in and put in some twigs on this side here. Some darker twigs with the burnt sienna. And I want to be careful not to get any into the egg. I always say the egg. There are 3 eggs here, so the eggs. All right. A little bit more dark here too. Now I'm just going to take some water and blend that a little so it doesn't look so sharp. That's a little better, I think. So I'm taking more of that burnt sienna, and I want to put some more under here. And maybe some more over here. I'm whispering again. I'm sorry, guys. I forget that I'm on camera sometimes, and I'm just like, da 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 da. I think this is looking amazing. I'm pretty proud of myself, and I haven't even done the eggs yet. All right, I'm going to stop right now with the nest, and I am going to work on those eggs. I'm going to take that little 3/0, and I'm going to go back into my, actually I'm going to go into a lighter blue right now. I'm going to go into what's called a sky blue. All right, that's a lighter blue, and I'm really kind of taking the smallest amount of pigment. I think when you work with pan paints, it's hard to tell sometimes, you know. Yeah, that's a lot, so I'm going to add water to that. And I want to blend it into the sides of the egg, the outline that I made there. I'm not adding more paint. I'm just adding water. Because, you know, eggs, well, white ones are different, but the robin's eggs, the blue eggs, they're not solid blue. They have some white on them, or light blue, I should say. Now I'm taking my number 2 round brush because it's bigger, and I think it'll work better for this. Okay? And I'm just going to take a clean, dried off brush. It's not dry, but it's moist. And I'm just doing a little, pulling off a little bit of that blue, just to make a little highlight. And if I want to after, I'll come in with some white, because I might do another layer, I'm not sure. But I want that to dry before I continue to do the other eggs. So I'm going back to my liner brush, and I'm going to do more highlighting with yellow, lemon yellow. I don't want to overdo it though. I can put one or two there. That'll be okay. If I put a little bit of the yellow, it almost makes it look, you know, darker. It gives it a little bit of shadow, a little better shadow, because there's highlight and shade at the same time. But it's not as light as this area here, that's for sure. I really like how this is turning out. I'm going to, let's see, that's pretty dry. I'm going to work on this egg over here, and I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm taking that sky blue color, just the tiniest amount, and I'm going to add a lot of water to that. I mean, as much water as I can on a tiny little egg. But no more pigment, no more paint, I mean. That's a bad habit of mine also. I call paint pigment. And yes, it is made with pigment, but it is not pigment, it is paint. And I just want to soften those lines, the outline that I made. I want them to show, because they're creating a little bit of a shadow, giving the eggs a bit of a 3D look, you know? And I'm just going to pull off a little bit of paint here. I will probably have to add some white after to give it a little highlight. But I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm just taking a quick look if there's anything else I want to do for the nest. I don't think so. I do want to put a little shadow here, and I think I'm dry enough here that I can do that. Now, remember I had that dish before with the yellow ochre? I'm not going to bother cleaning that out. I'm just going to add a little bit of my kind of dirty brown water here. And I'm going to take my number 4 brush, and I'm going to put some, let's see, I'm going to put some of the Van Dyke brown in there to make it nice and dark. Oh, I've got something in there. Okay, there's no point trying to get it out. There we go. That's what I want, a nice dark brown. So I'm just going to paint a little bit of a shadow under here. This is a very light wash. I don't want to paint out any of the, I'll call them twigs and branches. I don't want to paint any of those out. I want those to remain. So I really wanted to make sure that my painting was dry. And this is just, you know, a very, very quick and dirty shadow here. Just to give it the idea of a shadow. And while I'm in my dark brown here, the Van Dyke brown, I'm going to add a little bit more to some of the area here. And I'm going to put a light wash in around the eggs on this side. Again, I don't want to lose my twigs and branches, but I just wanted to darken that up a little bit. Just a little bit there. And I'm going to take some of that out so that it blends better. There. I just wanted that side to be a little darker because it is kind of hidden from the light. There. That's all I wanted to do with that. Now I'm going to work on those eggs again. I've got my number 2 round brush, and I'm going to work on this one here. It was the sky blue, I believe. Yeah. Put a little bit of paint on there and then some water. Ooh, that's way too much paint. Let's pull some of that off. There we go. And I'm going to soften up the outline that I did. I think that's looking pretty nice. I'm wondering if I should add a little more blue to that. I'm gonna see. All right, I've got what's called a light sky blue here. Let's see how light that really is. And I'm gonna add it to this side of the egg. Yeah, that's okay. It's kind of a purplish blue, but that'll work because I want the bottom of the egg here to be a little darker. I'm just blending with water right now. I think that looks all right, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other two. I'm just going to do a little wet and wet though. Just putting a little wet on that side, and I'm into that, what was it called? Light sky blue color. And I'm just going to blend that a little. Same here, a little wet and wet. Light sky blue. It's very subtle, I think. I don't know. That looks all right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little more. I can't stop. A little wet and wet on this side too. I'm going to put some of that light sky blue on this side too. I'm blending it. I don't want it to be so obvious, you know. And then over here too, light sky blue. And then I'll blend it. Up here too. Oh, I got some yellow. Where did I get yellow? Jeepers. Get that off there, Rain. There was a little bit of yellow paint sitting on my water dish, and I guess I must have touched it by mistake. And I'll blend that. Okay, so what I'm going to do with a very clean brush, I'm going to put in a little white for the highlighting on the eggs. A little bit of white here. Not enough white. Hold on. There we go. A little white there. Maybe a little white in the middle here. And a little white here. Just for a touch of highlighting, and I'm going to blend around it. Just so it doesn't look like a streak of white, but I'm going to add more white. I want it to be a little brighter. I might have to wait until my paint dries. Let's see. I'm going to look through my camera lens here and take a look. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait till my paint dries to add a little more highlight there. I'm just going to take some clean water and some of that white and put a little highlight on the egg because the eggs are dry. Now I don't know if that's going to make a big difference or not, but I like how it looks in front of me. Now I'm just going to take some of that water. I'm going to wipe off my brush, dab it a little bit, and just kind of blend around. All right, I'm not going to touch the eggs anymore, but I am going to do something with the nest. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a darker brown, probably the burnt sienna. It's not really a dark brown, it's a burnt sienna. And I want to put some highlighting, not highlighting, some detail around that side there. I'm thinking that it looks a little weird. I don't mention my cat very often. My cat's name is Oscar. Well, I call him Baby Oscar because when I got him, he was only a baby. And he was the youngest pet of 6 that I had at the time. So he's continued to be called Baby Oscar. He's actually snoring right now. All right, I think that looks a little better, and I want to do something else too for this part of the nest in here. I do want to add a little detail so that, you know, I want to see some twigs in there. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to go into my yellow ochre and see what I can do here. Not the yellow ochre, that's too light. I'll go into the yellow sienna and see what we can do with my liner brush. I don't want to ruin what I've done here. It's still too light. Looks like we're going into sienna. Just loading up my brush here with that sienna color. Let's see. I'm applying some very, very thin lines here. I don't want to cover all my highlighting, but I feel like there should have been more twigs in that little spot there. And I am going to go back in with the yellow to put some more highlighting there. All right. Now let's see, maybe under here too I need to put some more twigs. What was I using before? Sienna? Or, yeah, sienna. Just to put a few little... I don't want to get it into the eggs, but I got those shaky hand things going on. Things. Shaky hand syndrome. I'm just adding detail. I think I'm enjoying this so much that I don't want to stop. This should be dry because, yeah, it's dry because they were very light strokes. So I'm going to go into the yellow again, the lemon yellow, with my liner brush. And I'm going to put a few little small highlights, just tiny. There. I'm not done yet. Okay, I'm going into the burnt sienna. I want a little darker highlight here. Darker detail, sorry, not highlight. Using the wrong words here. Now, am I happy with this? Rain, are you happy with this? Let's take a look. Nope. All right, I've got my number 2 brush. I'm just going to go into that sky blue color, and I'm going to make a little wash, okay? This is where I had my white before, so I'm just doing a little wash with the sky blue. Let's see what we can do here. Not enough paint in there. That looks dark, but it's going to go on as a wash, so. Maybe I'll add a little paint and see what happens. And I'm just going to spread that around. This has become a wet and wet technique here. I started off wanting to do a wash. I don't want to erase my highlight. But I just feel like these eggs should be just slightly darker. I'm just pulling some of that off. I am going to have to go back in with the white when this is dry because I just painted over it. Oh well. Now get a little bit more of that paint in there. This one I'm going to try not to erase or paint over my white highlight. But I do want to blend it a little. Okay, that's what I was looking for this one. But I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay here. There's a little highlighting left. Let's put a little more of that blue onto this one. I'm going to go into my white. Just add that highlight back in here because I did paint over it. It's very, very subtle, you know, very subtle. But I think I'm done. I'm not sure. Let me just try to, you know what I'm going to do? Last thing, I promise. I'm going to try to blend that outline in a little better. Because I want it to show that there are a few eggs there. But I don't want it to be, you know, so stark that it looks like a line, you know? I don't want that, so I may just do that. I hope I'm not ruining my painting here. I'm taking some of that turkey blue that I originally had. And I'm going to soften that up. I just have water on my brush, by the way, and I'm just trying to soften it up a little around the edges, that's all. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this today, my friends, and remember what Bob Ross said. We just show you how, but you make the decisions. When you have this much power, you have to make big decisions. You know, I'm not saying this is about me or anything. If someone shows you how to do something, it's great to follow along with what they've showed you, but at some point you have to make it your own, you know. And it just reminds me when I started learning how to draw and how to paint. I copied, you know, I did all of Bob Ross's Joy of Painting episodes. I did all of them. And then I joined a couple of places on Patreon, and I basically copied what those people were doing. And eventually, it took me a while. It took me a couple of years to sort of get the courage to do my own thing. But I learned some stuff by watching how other people do it. We just show you how, but you make the decisions. You have a lot of power, so you make your own decisions. You have to sort of branch out at some point and try something on your own. And that's kind of what I've been doing lately when it comes to the water painting. And I encourage you to do the same. You know, you don't have to follow exactly what I've done. You can use different colors. You can put 5 eggs, you know, you can make your nest much smaller. So I encourage you to just be creative and, you know, learn from other people, but do your own thing. And maybe start your own YouTube channel too. I'm sure you have a lot to offer. You have a lot of talent. I'm just trying to be encouraging here. Because, you know, sometimes we need to hear that little bit of encouragement. So that's it for now, my friends. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a comment. I do love to read them, and I do reply to all of them. Thanks again for watching, so we'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Bye!